Split Second. Quite a niche racing game, but those who know it love it. One thing I love about it is the unlicensed race cars that I have to drive. And in this video, I'll be reviewing every one. I'll be reviewing them based on their appearance, their sound, and how they drive. I won't be doing a tier list because I suck at them. So, without further ado, let's check them out. In Split Second, you have three types of cars. You have drift cars, supercars, and trucks. The Brawler is the first drift car, and just by looking at it, it's very attractive. It looks almost identical to the 5th gen Camaro, and you'll notice some numbers on the side that reads 427, which implies that there is an LS7 under the hood, and it kinda sounds like it too. Take a listen. Ironically, the Camaro Z28 would go on sale with an LS7 from the factory 4 years after Split Second hit the shelves. Kind of a crazy prediction. So, how does the Brawler drive? In my opinion, pretty good for a first car. It's a little slow, but it drifts really well, especially once you get it up to speed. Drifting is the easiest way to get power, which is what makes you win in regular races, and I guess eliminations too. Not a bad car overall. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. The 455 GT is the first supercar, and it's the car that you drive in the game's tutorial. Being a mid-engine supercar, it is quite sexy, bearing resemblance to the Ferrari F430. It also sports a European high-revving V8, also shared with the F430. So, does this Ferrari drive as good as it looks? Honestly, not really. Don't get me wrong, it's pretty quick compared to the Brawler, but it can't drift very well, which is par for the course with these supercars. I already established that in normal races, drifting is how you win. So, I have to give the 455 GT a 6 out of 10. The Tornado is the first truck, and it looks really beefy, as a truck should. It looks like a 12th gen F-150, especially from the back end, and you could make a similar argument for the engine sound too. Despite that sweet American sound, you can't get past the fact that the Tornado is still a truck. It's an absolute sloth off the line, and it can't drift to save its life. I just have to rate it pretty low, like a 3 out of 10. There's not really a reason to drive this. I love the Iridium, and I'll tell you why, starting with the looks. At the front, it looks like an old Challenger, but the back looks like a Lotus Exige. So, old muscle car, mid-engine sports car, which one does it sound like? The answer is neither. It actually sounds like a 392 V8. Listen to it. The looks, the sound, it's all wild with the Iridium. So how does it drive? Well, it's a drift car, so let's compare it to the Brawler. The Iridium is essentially a direct upgrade. It's much faster and it drifts better, coupled with a great sound, and it makes for an addicting car to drive. I'm being bold, rating it a 9 out of 10. I just love it that much. I was never 100% sure what to make of the Indus V8R, but we are in the Big 26, so now there's at least a couple cars that look like it, such as the newer Lexus is, especially with the big front grille. Somehow, it even shares a similar engine sound to the IS500. Functionally, the Indus is a supercar, so I guess I'll compare it to the 455 GT. The Indus is pretty much an upgrade, with faster acceleration and better drifting, but a bit of a low top speed. Overall, it's pretty heavily outclassed by the Iridium, so the Indus is getting a 6 out of 10 from me. Oh boy, I got a bone to pick with the Mohawk. Before that though, I'll give it credit where it's due. It looks like the old Charger. We all know it, and we all love it. Now that's out of the way, for a classic muscle car, this thing sounds like shit. It literally sounds like my mom's Volkswagen. Don't believe me? Hear it for yourself. My dad always told me it ain't a muscle car without the muscle. So not only does it sound bad, it doesn't drive good either. It's about the same speed as the Iridium, and it doesn't even drift as good. Hell, even the Brawler drifts better. The Mohawk is a 4 out of 10. Very disappointing. Right as I get done shit talking the Mohawk, I get to the only thing that might be worse, which is the Bandit. This fat fuck is ugly as hell, like a Honda Ridgeline. It does sound like a Triton V10, which is pretty interesting. The worst part is, it doesn't even drive good. Sure, it has a decent top speed, but this thing is a pig! And it can't drift, like at all. Highest I can go is a 2 out of 10. It's arguably the worst car in the game. The GTRS is the last C-Class supercar. It looks a lot like the 987 Cayman S, particularly in the front. It does not sound like one, however, instead sounding like a high-revving European V8, like a McLaren for example. So, it sounds good, looks good, and fortunately, it drives good. It's easily the fastest car in its class, and it can sorta drift, although nothing like the Iridium. It gets an 8 out of 10, I just wish it could drift a little better. Our last C-Class car, the Nero GT400. The game describes it as a muscle car, but to me it looks like a Mercedes. Especially in the back, those taillights are identical to the SLR. It even sounds like a C63, take a listen. Man, this thing is Mercedes through and through. There is some to be desired from the driving though. Good top speed, but it does take a second to get up there, and you need a bit of speed to get it sideways. Overall, it's a decent car, 7 out of 10. The Vortex is our first B-Class car. Right off the bat, it looks intimidating, like the Murcielago. The front looks like the SV, while the back looks like the LP640. I love that V12 sound, but I wish it was louder and higher pitched, like a real Lamborghini. Compared to everything preceding it, the Vortex is wicked fast. Highest top speed so far, mad quick off the line, and it can even get a little sideways. It's a perfect segue into some of the faster cars, and for that, the Vortex is a 9 out of 10 in my book. The Hanzo GT. Oh, I have a lot to say about this one. The front end looks like the GTR prototype. If you played Need for Speed Pro Street, then you know what I'm talking about. But the back end, you know those Wranglers that have those pissed off headlights? That's kind of what it looks like on the back of the Hanzo GT. Even weirder, closest engine sound I can find to this is a 5.0 Coyote. So far, pretty weird car, but man does it drive good. High top speed, up there with some of the A-Class cars, and it can drift. It's very weird visually, but it more than makes up for it with the amazing handling. Hanzo GT is a 9 out of 10 from me. The Bayonet R takes on the appearance of an iconic Italian supercar. Which one? The Ferrari 458, of course. And it also shares the sound of the high-revving V8. But the Bayonet is turbocharged, meaning that it's more closely related to the 488 GTB under the hood. It also drives pretty decent too. It has an okay top speed, it's quick off the line, and it can drift decent enough. It grips a little better than the Vortex, meaning that you're less likely to drift when you don't want to. Pretty solid for a supercar, it gets an 8 out of 10. The GT500 takes an interesting appearance. It looks like the DB9, especially from the front, and it has an interesting engine sound. It's the first inline 6, taking after the BMW S55, which is found in the F80 M3. Unfortunately, the GT500 doesn't drive very good for a B-Class car. I mean, it can drift, but the top speed is very low. It's almost entirely outclassed by the Hanzo GT. So, this gets a 5 out of 10 from me. Since you unlocked the Hanzo earlier, that's just not much of a reason to drive the GT500. The S510 is the first Elite car, unlocked by winning the Elite race in Episode 6. It takes the appearance of the MP412C, and it also has 2 unique liveries which you can get from a free DLC. It shares the engine sound with the Bayonet R, but that being a turbocharged high-revving V8, although the Elite is pitched up a little. So with that said, how does the S510 drive? It honestly shocked me, but not in a good way. It has the highest acceleration in its class, but a low top speed, and compared to the Bayonet R, the S510 has just a touch less grip. Worse yet, when you drive the S510, a B-class car by the way, the game will put you against some of the fastest cars in the game. This includes the fucking Firestorm, which I'll get to later. All in all, the S510 is a 7 out of 10. It's a good car, but not the right competition. I like the Thunder, like a lot. It's my favorite truck in the game, and one of my favorite cars overall. Starting with the looks, it takes after the 4th gen Ram, namely the front end. And my favorite part about the Thunder is the engine. It sounds like one of those blown big blocks that you would see in an old muscle car.
That's amazing. That would never get old.
That is pure American freedom right there. So, does the Thunder drive as good as it sounds? I certainly think so. Something weird about the trucks in Split Second is that they tend to have high top speeds, even compared to the supercars. The Thunder is no exception to this, since it has the highest top speed of any B-class car. Sure, it takes a while to get there, but it's hard to stop a big heavy truck. Lastly, you can make this thing drift if you let it get some speed, so don't think you'll have to give up any power making to drive this. And so, I'm giving the Thunder a 9 out of 10. It's addicting to drive once you learn it. The Coyote is the last B-class car. Right off the bat, the car makes an insane prediction with its design. It looks like the Mark V Supra, which wasn't even a thing until 10 years after Split Second came out. Again, crazy ass prediction. As for the engine sound, it kinda sounds like Ford's 5.2 Voodoo. was kind of reaching for that sound, but it's the closest I can think of. Anyway, the Coyote drive is almost identically to the Hanzo GT. It's about as fast while also drifting really well. The only difference is that the Coyote won't drift unless you press the brake pedal, which is a pretty neat safety feature. One more thing I forgot to mention, if you have a DLC pack, the Coyote will have a unique livery and a better engine sound. The Coyote gets an 8 out of 10. It's a nice drift car to close out the class. The Slipstream is the first A-class car, making its entry as one of the fastest in the game. And for the second time in a row, Split Second made a crazy design prediction 10 years in advance. This time with the C8 Corvette, which the Slipstream takes heavy design cues from. Not only that, the two supercars also share the same guts under the hood. Now the Slipstream pulls no punches when it comes to speed. It's very quick off the line, quicker than almost anything in the game in fact, and it can drift pretty good for a supercar. It's lacking in top speed, but it has so much more going for it. All that said, the Slipstream is a 9 out of 10 for me. The 440 Special is the second elite car, functioning as the only elite drift car. It is based heavily on the S197 Mustang, specifically the pre-facelift models due to the sharper edges. The engine sounds a lot like a Koenigsegg V8, which is very interesting since early Koenigsegg engines were built from Ford blocks. There's also a unique livery that you can get as part of a free DLC, same as the S510. And when you look at the numbers, the 440 is arguably the most balanced car in the game. It has 6 top speed, 7 drift, 7? It's fast, it can drift, and it's tough. It's an underrated car in my opinion. I was gonna rate it a 6 or 7, but I think I'll give it an 8 out of 10. The Cascade is an A-class drift car. with design inspiration from the GR-GT. This car isn't even out yet, but Split Second kind of predicted the body style. The Cascade shares the engine sound with the GT500, that being the BMW N55 inline 6. Now when it comes to speed, the Cascade isn't great. But when it goes sideways, that's where it really shines. It's got a clean design and some good handling, so it gets an 8 out of 10. I have very mixed feelings for the 530 GTS. Let's get the good news out of the way. The car looks really cool. It looks like the Ford GT, although it doesn't sound like it. The 530 instead sounds like yet another high-revving European V8. I get that these types of engines sound really cool, but there's so many supercars in Split Second that sound precisely like this. Why not a deep pushrod V8 like in the Slipstream? Anyway, my beef with the 530 is in its handling. This thing is fast in a straight line, and I mean fast. But the thing is, it kind of sucks at drifting. So for that, I gotta rate it like a 6 out of 10. We get another drift car with the Pursuit. It looks eerily similar to the Maserati Gran Turismo, namely in the front where it's almost a perfect match. You could even say that the engine is also a Maserati, specifically from the MC12. Compared to the Cascade, the Pursuit is faster in a straight line, but despite what the game tells you, I find it to have a harder time drifting compared to the Cascade. That said, the Pursuit is a 7 out of 10. I think Goliath is a perfect name for the only elite truck. It looks a lot like the Grand Cherokee, taking note of the grille and headlights. And this beast has an engine sound unlike anything that came before it. It's a low, deep V8, and I have a strong sense that it's not fueled by gasoline. That's right. This thing sounds exactly like a 6.0 Power Stroke. If this game was realistic, the Goliath would be rolling coal for the whole race. Anyway, it has the highest strength stat in the entire game, and the second highest top speed. It's still a truck though, so it does take a minute to get going. And similar to the Thunder, the Goliath is addicting to drive once you learn it, so it gets an 8 out of 10. Remember a moment ago when I spoke pretty negatively about the 530 GTS? Well, I'm gonna shit on the Cyclone RS even harder. Before that though, good news, it kinda looks like the Murcielago RSV. Bad news though, the game literally ripped the sound from the 530 and copied it into the Cyclone. Worse yet, this thing somehow performs worse than the 530. The Cyclone has a slightly higher top speed, yet the drifting is even worse than the 530. At least you get a unique livery and engine sound with the DLC. Besides that, this car is no more than a 5 out of 10, mid at best. Next up, we have the Titan, directly competing with the Goliath. Now it looks a lot like the new Expedition, except the Titan actually looks good as opposed to the Expedition, which is ugly as hell. And the Titan shares the same engine sound as the Goliath, that being the 6th blow, although the Titan has a lower pitch. It also performs very similar to the Goliath. The Titan has slightly lower strength and top speed, but slightly better acceleration. It's a good truck, but outclassed by the Goliath in my opinion, so it's a 7 out of 10. Alright, I'm gonna try to keep my cool here. Good news first, the FX350 looks awesome. It's a hypercar. It looks like the SSC Ultimate Aero, and it shares the engine sound of the 440 Special, that being the Koenigsegg V8. You could also say that the FX350 looks like one. Alright, now I'm about to crash out. Remember way back in the beginning of the video when I said that the Bandit was arguably the worst car in the game? Well, I'm gonna put the stats for the FX350 up on screen. Now take note that the drift stat is actually pretty high. Well, the game lied. This thing cannot drift for shit. Look, see, when you go to drift, it's gonna send you into a fucking wall where you crash. Like, you cannot do like a wide drift, like say with the Cascade or Pursuit, and then you may think in that case, oh well, let me just drive it in a straight line, like say the 530 GTS. Even then, it's not the best because, well, I'm pretty sure the 530 beats it in acceleration. 530 matches it in top speed, and even the Cyclone, much as I hate that fucking thing, it beats it in top speed. And those things they at least drift bad. The FX350, it can't drift at all. This is my case for why I think the FX350 is the worst car in the game. 1 out of 10. Coming off the heels of the worst car in the game, we have the best, which is the Firestorm. You have to place first in every race, making this the hardest car to unlock. It's quite a mutant in appearance, looking like the Alfa Romeo 8C in the front and a Cobra Daytona on the back. The Firestorm shares its engine sound with the Thunder, which, if you remember, I love dearly. Yeah, I might be an addict to that sound. I also might be an addict to how the Firestorm drives. It's already decently fast in a straight line, but go ahead and drift this thing. It accelerates when it drifts. I don't know if any other car does this. The Firestorm is a 10 out of 10. Perfect reward for 100%ing the game. The GT12 is the final elite car, and the last car that can be unlocked in the base game. You have to win the final elite race to unlock it. It's based heavily on the Zonda R, and it kinda sounds like a muffled version of it. Words couldn't describe truly how fast the GT12 really is. Max acceleration, max top speed, and it can drift decently. You do need to know how to actually play the game if you want to drive this car good, but it's very rewarding, and it gets a 9 out of 10. The Severus is a DLC supercar, taking design cues from the GTA Spano. If you've seen the Need for Speed movie, then you know exactly what car I'm talking about. If you haven't, go watch it right now. It's peak. Anyway, the Severus sounds like a Huracan, which the GTA Spano did have V10, but not a Huracan V10. So does having paid DLC give you an advantage? I don't think so. The car is pretty fast, but the GT12 is faster, and nothing can outdrift the Firestorm. Not gonna knock the Severus though. It's a neat car that still performs. It's an 8 out of 10. The Vulcan is our second DLC supercar, taking the appearance of the Marussia B2 in the front, and the back. Why does the back kinda look like the new BRZ? Do y'all see this, or do I need to go to bed? I don't know. Anyway, when I hear the exhaust note, I immediately think of a Lamborghini Aventador. So how does the Vulcan drive? Pretty similar to the Severus. Compared to that one, the Vulcan has a touch less acceleration, slightly higher top speed, but it's a bit worse when it comes to drifting. Honestly, a slight downgrade for me. 7 out of 10. Our last supercar is the Katana. It looks like the Volkswagen W12, especially in the front where it looks identical. Now the engine fittingly sounds like a W12 also, but from a Bentley. The Katana also drives pretty similar to the Severus and Vulcan. It has a high top speed, but acceleration is piss poor for a supercar. At least it can kinda drift though. And the sound is nice, so I'll give it a 7 out of 10. The Kanobo is the final truck in the game. It's one of 3 cars in another DLC pack. The Kanobo not only looks, but also sounds like an Audi Q7. It hasn't been often where we get a complete match like this one. Since the Kanobo is a truck, it's gonna drive like a truck. High top speed, low acceleration, high strength, and bad drifting. Love it. Just love it. And coupled with a mid-engine sound too. 6 out of 10. Our last 2 cars are both drift monsters. The first of which is a Centaur, which looks like the Audi R8 if it was a front engine instead of a mid-engine. It also sounds like one of the older R8s that had the 4.2 liter V8. Honestly, the Centaur could give the Firestorm a run for its money. It's fast, it drifts, it sounds and looks good. It's really just down to preference. But honestly, I would still prefer the Firestorm. The Centaur is still a massive 9 out of 10 for me. Finally onto the last car, the Javelin, and it looks beastly, like the Venom GT, except the engine is in front of the car and the Javelin. Speaking of the engine, that sweet V12 could only be matched by the LaFerrari. Just like the Centaur, the Javelin is a formidable force. It's fast and it drifts exceptionally, placing itself on par with the Firestorm. Between these three giants, it's really just down to preference. I prefer the Firestorm because of the engine sound, but the Javelin, just like the Centaur, gets a 9 out of 10. Lord Jesus, this video was certainly something. I think it took about a week to edit now. Man. It's the first time I really went in on editing a video like this. I think I bit off a bit more than I could chew, but we're at the end now. That's it. That's every car ranked, including the DLCs. Probably gonna do something that's a little more editor friendly as my next video. So if you're looking forward to seeing something like that, then well, unfortunately I gotta do the YouTuber thing. Like and subscribe. See you all probably next week.